Listen to this voice.
No, don't be like that. Oh, stop messing about.
And this one.
35 years I've been coming here. 35 years I've been coming to these studios.
You may recognize them from the two radio shows, Hancock's Half Hour and Beyond Our Ken. And they are just two of the many voices that belong to one man. The man is Kenneth Williams, and tonight he opens in a new review, 1/8, at the Duke of York's Theatre in London. Now, Mr. Williams, judging by the enormous number of voices and characters that you play, you seem to collect voices like other people collect stamps. Do you, in fact, borrow them from people that you've met, or do you just pluck them from the air?
Oh, yes, so they are taken from people I've known, you know, pinched, I suppose. The snide voice, that Stop Messing About one, I met this boy who was working the Mint, and he was describing how you were searched when you left the Mint, in case they suspected that you were taking out anything that you shouldn't be. And in describing it, he had a perpetual smile on his face and said, you know, you have to be very, very careful, because otherwise, you see, they make you take your clothes off. And so I thought it was a very good idea there.
What about the other one, the old 35 years?
Well, that was a producer, actually, who directed me in a play, and he was giving a lecture to the cast on the interpretation of the play, and he salivated, a lot of saliva and spit, you see. And as he was telling them all about something that was going wrong in the play.
And talking, you see, very much about that, you see, all the time. And the cigarette, the glue was all coming undone, you see, and it all
fell over him, you see. And indeed, I was impersonating this when he came in and saw me doing it, but I fantasticated a little more than him.
Made it a bit more, you know, senile.
And arrived at a voice which is very good for radio, you know, because it's old and...
You've just, of course, been out on tour with this review, haven't you? Do you find that being out of London a great deal provides you with good opportunity for collecting more voices?
Yes, you do meet some extraordinary people, you know, that come backstage. We have and one of the sketches in this is based on the colour bar, the idea of the colour bar, setting it up, satirising the idea. And we met on this tour a woman from South Africa who had very definite views on it, you see, and she was telling us that if we'd lived there ourselves, we'd all have different views on it too.
And she talked, you see, in this very South African way, this very pinched, you know, this way of talking. If you knew, if only you knew, if only you could be out there yourself and see how we have to cope with this problem, you see. That voice I got from her.
What about these long tours, particularly away from London? Do you find that review audiences, for instance, differ very much from audiences for straight plays?
Undoubtedly, yes.
In what sort of ways?
Well, I mean, I think a straight play on tour has a certain universality of appeal, whereas review is so often only for and designed for the cosmopolitan. And consequently, you get some extraordinary things said to you in the provinces. One man accosted me outside the theatre and said, "Do you have a review school?" Quite fantastic. And somebody else said to me,
well, it were all right. Yes, it were all right, the show, but there were no plot.
You see. So goodness knows what you thought you'd been watching. Also, somebody else tackled me and said, "You don't mind me saying this, because, you know, you never want to resent criticism from the public. You never want to resent..." I said, "No, indeed. We welcome it, you know, with every arm." Yes, he said, "Well, you want to remember that your diction impedes characterization. You see, now you want to watch that. Your diction is impeded by your character." I said, "Indeed." "Yes, well, quite right." You know, and flew into the night with this terrible cry after me, "Diction impedes characterization." I didn't really know what it meant at all.
The last time you appeared on this programme, I recall, was when you had overslept and missed a performance in the theatre. Are you taking any particular precautions to see that you're not going to oversleep in this?
It won't arise. No.
Why not?
In those days, I slept very easily, you know. I've had slept anywhere. But now, I don't know what it is the result of, but I don't seem to sleep at all. I take things, you know, in order to get off to sleep. So I can assure you I shall have no worry.
Now, this review, as I said earlier, opens at the Duke of York's. Now, the last time you appeared at the Duke of York's was in the Orson Welles production of Moby Dick, in which you played 6 different characters. This was presumably no different at all from appearing in review.
Similar in the sense of the vocal range. You know, Orson asked us all to just change vocally. There wasn't time for either costume or makeup changes. It was an open stage production. You couldn't get off. You had to keep coming back on and off, so to speak, as something different. And he asked us to do this, achieve this vocally, which is, of course, something one would be required to do often in review. And it was a very an extraordinary production indeed, because, well, there's no set, everything was left to go on to his imagination, and the whole thing was our boat, you know, it was all on this ship, and we all had to rock, you see. We all had to actually, the entire cast was to rock, as though they were on a boat, you see, which would have been all right if we'd all been doing this, you see, but a lot of them were going the other way, as though they were on different ships, and it was really a mess. And then we had to lower a boat, you see, lower a boat into the auditorium, which we'd always rehearse in an empty theatre. This, of course, we never thought of an audience being there, and the night we did lower it, half the sailors fell on two rather ritzy people in the front row with ermine and furs, and one sailor sat on a woman's lap, you know, inadvertently fell right from the floats onto her lap, and squashed all her black magic. Oh, no, I mustn't say that, it's an advertisement. Squashed all her chocolates anyway, and she made this frightful scene about it. So, get off, you see. And when there we were all shouting, she blows, a great spout, she blows, oh, get off me. Yeah, the whole thing was a terrible hiatus.
Mr. Williams, thank you very much indeed.